Start by who you are and who you work for.
Robert Boedigheimer, and I work for the Schwan Food Company.
Okay. And you're doing 2 talks at this co-camp, right?
Yep, I'm doing a CSS talk today, and tomorrow I'm doing things every ASP.NET developer should know.
What's one thing?
What's one thing?
I don't want to have you do the whole talk here, but what's one thing that...
I think the one thing a lot of people haven't seen is Fiddler.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a good tool for doing tracing between your browser and your server.
Yep.
So it helps us a lot with troubleshooting. So I run into a lot of people that have particular problems, even with SharePoint or any random website, and they don't know how to troubleshoot it.
Okay.
So pulling up Fiddler and just showing them, shows you basic 404s.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy at work who had a problem. He was convinced it's one of those that worked on his machine. Didn't work when he deployed it. And I said, "Are you sure you deployed the videos?" "Yeah." "Positive." Pull up Fiddler, shows red 404. Your video's not deployed. So walked away from his desk. Another guy had a CSS problem with SharePoint and said same thing. Just pulled it up and said, "Well, you don't have the style sheet where you think you do." And
gotcha.
so
okay.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And speaking of CSS, like you said, your other talk is on that. What was the name? I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the talk already.
It's just CSS for ASP.NET developers.
Okay.
Yep.
So what is the appeal, especially in ASP.NET? What is the general appeal for CSS?
Well, the general appeal is just being able to split your presentation from your content. So the ability to retool it for different devices, have a different look and feel for print versus on screen. I'm going to get into some of the new CSS3 stuff, so show some of the features in there.
Yeah.
Lately I've been doing minification and consolidation, and I just did some CSS sprite work, so I'm going to talk about that, just how to optimize your site. So CSS sprites, for instance, on our homepage we have 50 or 60 images, so we went through and said if most of the time you spend on a website, 80 or 90% of it is downloading all the components, so the JavaScript, the CSS, all the images. And so looking at images, there's a lot of images on the site that are just little borders and things like that that are pretty small. You can actually take those and combine them all into a single image.
Okay.
And then you can use the CSS to position inside that image. So it's kind of like people use the analogy of a Ouija board. So you've got all the different images on there.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of you slide the thing over using CSS to say this is the particular image I want to show.
Okay.
And so on our homepage we went 50 images, about 23 of them we're able to put into a sprite. So instead of the browser making 23 more requests back to the server, you're going to make just one.
Okay.
So it should make a big speed improvement.
Have you used anything like less?
I have not yet.
Okay.
No.
Because the one thing that's always, I try to use CSS, I actually use it on my site, but it just, I can't get my head around it. It just feels awkward, at points, because there's no real good sense of, and I'm not saying it should be object-oriented like inheritance, but there's no real good sense of how do I have one style work off of another one? How do I define even like a constant? That idea. And it seems like things like less make it much more appealing to a developer to use. So, but like you said, you haven't used that quite yet. So.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.